Hey guys, this is Mike Caprice with Become the Night and Crusade, and you're watching Loudwire. For anyone that's watched my channel at all, you'll know that Metallica is one of my favorite bands. They were my favorite band for a decade of my life. And I remember back, I want to say I was like 10 or 11, and my brother had gone to the Marine Corps. He was over at Paris Island. And I had his CD collection. Amongst that CD collection were multiple Metallica CDs, including the Black Album. And man, I fell in love so hard with the Black Album. But weirdly enough, the specific riff that I remember I heard and encouraged me to ask my dad to buy me a guitar was from Don't Tread on Me. That riff just has this serious swagger. It's down on the open E, just all balls and no bullshit, and just smacks you in the face. It's like walking down the street and swinging your hips as your massive dick is just going from side to side. When I finally got my guitar, I was absolutely thrilled, and at the time I was listening to a lot of Beatles, weirdly enough. My parents didn't know I had my brother's CD collection. All the ones that they bought for me were like the Beatles, Bob Marley, the Monkees. That's a lot of where the roots of my love of music comes from. My mom's cousin's husband, it's whatever that relation is, they were visiting, and he took my guitar, which is a left-handed guitar, and upside down he showed me how to play Day Tripper by the Beatles. And that's the first time I actually had something that was like an actual idea on the guitar that I learned instead of just diddling around randomly. That could be taken out of context. Day Tripper is somehow carefree, yet has a fantastic attitude to it and is a fantastic melody. That's one of the things that I feel like so many metal guitarists don't understand, is making your riff a melody. And that's a beautiful example of it in Day Tripper. There was a period of like 5 to 7 years where every time I would pick up the guitar, the first riff I would play was Rising Force by Yngwie Malmsteen. Just every single time. It was almost my way of calibrating my hands to the instrument. And it was also because, holy shit, it sounds so damn cool, and it is so fun and not super difficult to play. The hardest thing about it is the speed. It's just every attitude-driven song distilled into one simple pentatonic or blues scale riff, however you want to look at it. I remember working at a grocery store, Wise Markets, for anyone up in the northeastern area of the United States. And there is this dude who is the night manager named Dwayne. And Dwayne was a fucking character, dude. But he introduced me to Iron Maiden. And God bless, I'm so happy he introduced me to Iron Maiden. Of all the Iron Maiden songs, you know, you have your Run to the Hills, and you have your Number of the Beasts, which are just like your, oh, you know, the first time you hear them. But the one that sticks with me the most, hands down, The Trooper. That intro riff is just so fucking sick. It's almost like you're in the fucking horse's mind, and the horse is just like, let me gallop. Let me fucking gallop. There's so much tension and rising action happening in that very simple, small lick. After having played the guitar for a couple years and basically running through all the power chords I possibly could and learning a ton of Metallica songs, very wrongly, by the way, I wanted to try to start tackling solos. Even though it felt like they were out of my grasp, I was just like, I got to do it. I think I tried a couple before I got around to Stairway to Heaven, because I was just like, this solo is amazing and I want to learn to play like this. And I knew digging through it, I was doing it very wrong. I knew instinctively by how difficult and awkward it was, I had to be doing this wrong. I took lessons for all of like a month and a half or 2 months or something, and they were mega valuable for even that short amount of time. It unlocked scales and solos and double stops and just this completely different aspect to playing guitar that I hadn't had before. I remember wanting to step up my game, so I was definitely not torrenting a bunch of lesson videos. I wound up getting the Speed Lives by Michelangelo Badio, and he demonstrates and teaches you how to play his song No Boundaries, which is jam-packed full of sweep picking, and sweep picking is something I knew I couldn't even touch, and I was afraid to touch. It took me years and years of trying to get it to finally approach something that seemed like a sweep pick. It took me forever. I hated having to learn that. I'm still not great at it. What you're about to hear is pretty fucking sloppy, actually. I still struggle with sweep picking to this day. Like every once in a while, I'll be able to catch myself on camera after a bajillion tries of actually doing it decently. But man, it is such a fucking bitch. Hate it. Sounds amazing. Hate doing it. When I was in the midst of first attempting to learn solos, for some reason, I felt like the Unforgiven 2 by Metallica sounded so much easier than all the other ones I tried to play, and little did I realize it was still quite difficult for my relatively novice hands. Even now, I mean, don't even think I ever correctly learned how to play that solo. I kind of just, for this video, just kind of grabbed it by ear really quick and did my own little flair to it. After being suspended from college for smoking way too much weed, I eventually got back in. That's a great way to start a story, right? It brings up more questions than answers. While living off campus, I sat up late at night, not able to sleep, and had just music running through my head. And this arpeggio that I had running through my head was just so fucking intoxicating and inviting and infectious to me, that I wanted to put it out on the guitar. And I picked up my guitar that night and I figured it out. I was like, wow, that was way easier to do than I imagined it would be. That was the first time, instead of writing with my hands, I was writing with my head. And that made a huge difference. So with my band Crusade, a lot of the songs on this album were demos that were either mostly or partially finished that I brought to the group and we kind of workshopped out. A lot of times it's just our keyboardist Jesse just being like, hey, this part can be a lot better. Or that's his way of saying this part sucks. But the only instrumental on our album, Rising Visionary, is Go Full Epic. My concept was like, if a progressive metal band could write a jam band song, this is what that might sound like. At this part of the song, it's basically just run you around emotionally to the point where it's like dropped you in this very open space with this really bizarre, uncomfortable riff. And then the polyrhythm and counterpoint starts smacking you in the face, especially when the solo rips in. Bruh. Our single Insatiable has so many beautiful melodic and counterpoint moments and just such fucking awesome chord progressions that Jesse, our keyboardist, wrote. It's just really stunning and flows so smoothly. Relatively neoclassical type of riff. There's just really well written harmony on Jesse's part that I wanted to take the time to not just do your basic bitch chords. I wanted to give that a personality and some life by writing a compelling melody around it. It's just really, I mean, not to fucking toot my own horn, really well written. So I used to work in a semi-sales job not too long ago, before I quit all day jobs and started doing YouTube as my full-time job. And I remember there was a prog band here in Nashville. I think they're called Evership. Does that sound right? Evership? Let me know in the comments below if it's Evership or not, since you guys are so fucking opinionated all the time. After listening to that, I had this na 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 that was just constantly going through my head, and I had the chords in mind. And this simple idea, me and Jesse developed from like 30 seconds into 13 minutes. Yeah, like you do, right? One of the riffs in that song is just this big, fucking fat, meaty, juicy, make you fucking rotten hell riff. Part of the major secret of that riff, in any big fat riff like that, is your tone. And thank God for this beautiful music man, JP7 back here, left-handed. The tone out of that, as Petrucci would say himself, is that Five Guys burger. Hell yeah. And by the way, huge props to JP for calling out Five Guys as opposed to In-N-Out. In-N-Out, just like the city it's from, LA, highly fucking overrated. It's just a massive riff, dude. Especially after this long, like 2.5 minute buildup of this kind of waltzy, la na na, fritzy frou frou bullshit, sitting here pretending like we're playing in a classical orchestra type of arpeggiation going on. It just says, fuck you, slides out, says, die, you stupid bitch, with a big fucking fat D flat power chord. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me. Huge thanks to Loudwire for having me on here. It was a hell of a lot of fun. And you guys can go listen to Rising Visionary right now on Spotify and all major streaming platforms. And you can buy one of our albums. It's on Bandcamp. I don't know if they'll let me link it on this fucking thing or not. It'd be fucking sweet if they. It'd be real cool if you did, Loudwire. That'd be fucking awesome. Anyway, y'all get the fuck out of here.